Hey guys, this is Matthew and welcome back to Nerd News Today. And this time around, we've got the first in a brand new series from Diamond Select Toys. Today we are looking at their first entry into Star Wars action figures. This was a huge surprise that was just revealed not that long ago, in fact. It just randomly showed up at the Disney store, I think in Florida or California, and someone posted it online. It started going around and circulating, and it wasn't long after that Diamond officially revealed it and released it as a Disney store exclusive. So right now, Diamond has 2 figures as part of this series, with hopefully many more on the way. And of course, the first one we've got to look at today is Boba Fett. Boba Fett is everybody's favorite bounty hunter. He suddenly rose in popularity in the 90s and has remained an icon to this day. The character has remained a fan favorite and is also still one of the most common cosplays you'll find at a convention. So let's take a look at the packaging real quick, because this is their first entry into the Star Wars range, and well, frankly, it's pretty different than what we've seen from Hasbro. Hasbro has the main figure license, and of course everybody knows them for their Star Wars Black series, which is their 6-inch figure line. Now, Diamond Select, they don't do 6 inches, they do 7-inch figures. So everything's going to be a little bit different here. And the biggest difference off the bat is that, well, unlike the Star Wars Black series, this packaging is white. So basically Diamond just went the complete opposite of what Hasbro was doing, and you know what? I give them respect for that. The packaging style is identical to everything else that Diamond Select has done with all of their other 7-inch figures. A very large window display, not a lot of cardboard on it other than what we see in the front, which just lists the character's name. The side of the packaging has a nice photo of Boba Fett. And the back of the box is equally kind of, well, just plain. All we get is a big photo of Boba Fett, and that's it. No bio, no other pictures of who else is in this wave. And it doesn't even list who designed and sculpted this piece, which normally Diamond does. It's a very bare bones packaging, but it still fits in fine. If you've been a collector of Diamond stuff, you know that it works basically displayed facing front and also library style on the side. So it'll integrate into your Diamond display very easily. But as for me, I'm not a mint on card collector, so let's go ahead and free Boba Fett here from his, well, not quite carbonite, but his plastic encasing, and let's take a closer look at him. And we are back, and here is our Diamond Select Boba Fett figure. And first glance, this thing is amazing. This might be the best action figure that Diamond Select has ever made. And you know, you guys know that we look at a lot of Diamond Select toys on this channel. We talk a lot about them. They're not always perfect. There's usually some really good ones, then there's a few that are maybe not quite as good. They're never really terrible. But I have to say, just off the bat, this is arguably the most flawless looking figure I've seen Diamond Select ever do. That is a huge compliment to that company, because they do some really fine work. When they nail it, they nail it. This Boba Fett, they nailed it. Let's jump in and talk about the look of Boba Fett. Normally we talk about likeness very first, but since there is no actual likeness of an actor here, let's just talk instead about how the entire thing looks and how accurate that looks. And I would say that they got this Boba Fett design down completely. There is nothing here that I would say is off. I know there's going to be some more hardcore Star Wars fans who might be able to pick out little things that I won't notice as much, but for my money, I mean, this clearly reads as Boba Fett. It's got a lot of good little details in there. Man, yeah, no, this is definitely Boba Fett. And they've got the colors down too, which, by the way, is why you're seeing my green screen today and not anything fancy behind our Boba Fett, because he's also green, and that shade of green, they don't interact too well. But now, I don't own a ton of the Star Wars Black Series figures, but one of the ones I do own, and it was in fact, I think, one of the first ones they put out, was the Boba Fett figure. And I remember the colors being fairly similar to this, but maybe not quite as greenish here. But that's also because they've painted things up a little differently too. You know, Diamond does their paint application different than Hasbro does. But I'd say color-wise, I mean, they're pretty similar. And if they are different, it's not different enough to the point where I'm not going to be bugging out about it. I'm not the kind of person that's going to be trying to match Pantones here to make sure they've completely color matched what we see on screen. I'm not that guy. I just want accuracy of overall of look, paint app, and that kind of thing. And I'd say they got that down. The helmet is really cool. Of course, it's got the notch in it, the classic Boba Fett notch. I think one of the coolest things about this figure actually is this paint job, though, because we're seeing all these dents and all these scratches on Boba Fett. Like, this is a Boba that has seen some action. This is, I think, a lot less clean than the Hasbro one has looked, in fact, and that's a good thing. I want him to look like he's been doing some stuff. And there's just like this nice level of grime on his hands, on his pants, on the shirt here too, but even the armor too. The armor is just as much gritty. It's been definitely banged up a lot. You can see how cool this all looks. This is just really excellent paint job here all around. And I feel like it's going to be different varying figure to figure depending on how you get this. Yours is going to probably look a little bit different than mine, because these are definitely some hand-painted scratches and dents here. Now let's talk about articulation also right now. And this Boba Fett, I hope he has a lot. Let's find out. The head, it is ball jointed. Can go up and down, left to right. That's good. Shoulders look like they are ball jointed as well. They are. There is a little bit of a hindering movement though, because these shoulder pads are kind of in the way. They can't really go much further than what you're seeing right here. That part's unfortunate. The elbows, Those are pretty good though. Those have a nice ball joint in them too. They can swivel around this. The wrists are also ball jointed. They can bend, they can flex. The waist turns. I don't think we're gonna get a lot of flexibility on that though because he's got this cape here. Same thing with the legs. The legs are ball jointed, but yeah, he can front kick just fine. He could do this, but you're not gonna be able to really do a very good side kick on that leg. This leg's a little bit better. The thighs are articulated too. They're a little stiff. The knee is double jointed. That's very stiff out the box, but that's typical at Diamond. The ankles are also on a ball joint here, so they can flex, they can rotate, and they can turn. So that's still pretty good articulation. Not the greatest, unfortunately, just because of the shoulders not being able to move as much. But otherwise, I'd say it's still pretty solid. And overall, Boba's been pretty solid and standing as well, but because I have these, I don't get to use them that often. I want to show you guys the Diamond Select bases. You can actually buy these from Diamond Select's website. I think they're like $6 for 10 of them or something, because all the Diamond figures have little peg holes. You can just pop them onto that, and boom. No more problems with him standing. Not like he was having any before, but now it's even easier. And putting him on the base also makes it a little bit easier for me to show you guys his shoes, because even his shoes have a tiny little bit of detail. Yeah, I just want to talk again about how much detail there is in this figure, because we've got all the pouches on Boba Fett. We've got the, I think it's the Wookiee pelt he has across his shoulder. We've got the gauntlets, especially the gauntlets. Look how much detail is in those guys there. There's so much going on in this. The knee pads are very unique looking, and so are the shoes, because the shoes have, I think, little climbing spikes in them. So they've really gotten a lot of little details in there. So many cool things. Just for you guys who are wondering, the antenna in his helmet, I don't believe this moves. It looks like it should. Well, it does. Well, shut my mouth, because that antenna does move. It was a little stiff, that's why I was afraid to work it. You know, and for folks who are new to Diamond, because I think this figure is going to be a pretty big entryway for Diamond collectors, it's not unusual for a Diamond figure to be very stiff when you take it out of the box. Don't screw around with it. I recommend you just give it a hot water bath, or take a hair dryer to it, heat up those joints, let the paint melt away and get softer, and then do your posing. Don't just try and snap into it, because chances are you could break something. Now let's take a closer look at this Jetpack too, which is very awesome. And I gotta tell you guys here, and as I'm looking at it, actually I just realized, I didn't even see that. This little piece right there, it actually is meant to kind of connect into his wrist. That is great little detail. So as for the Jetpack though, which is what I wanted to talk about, again, really great attention to detail. Love the color, love the look of it. This missile does not come out, but that's not uncommon. And as far as I can tell, this Jetpack rather, does not come off his back either. That is just attached to his chest piece. But what does move are these little rocket parts here. It looks like those actually do go up and down. So you can get some nice posing with that. Just be gentle with it, because they are a little stiff as well. So I'd recommend, I don't know if they're actually meant to move, but they just kind of are right now. So play with it at your own risk, but I wouldn't really move it around too much. But what I did discover that I didn't know about was these translucent blast-off effects. And check this out, you guys. Did not know this until I bought this toy. I was playing with it and I was like, does this actually come off? The answer is yes, the effects do come off. So when he's just when Boba Fett's just standing around, you can take off these blast-off effects. But as for me, I'm going to leave them on, because I just think they look way cooler like that. But yeah, they come off, and that's another really great little thing. And on the topic of effects, let's go ahead and talk about the accessories that Boba Fett has, because yeah, there's more to this figure than what we've seen so far. So Boba Fett here has 2 additional hands, making 4 hands total in this figure. Let's go ahead and pop them out. And his other 2 hands are both trigger fingers. Yeah, so that comes out like that. I'm going to actually leave this hand the way it is, because, well, he doesn't need to do anything with it. He doesn't come with 2 guns, so I don't see the purpose of him holding it. But you can see there's his other trigger finger hand right there. That would go in that spot. So Boba Fett also comes with his Ee3 Carbine Rifle. And again, another really great looking piece here. Good attention to detail. Let's go ahead and put this into his hand, see if he can hold it. And the answer is a resounding yes, he can hold it. There you go. That's how that looks in that hand. Let's see if he can actually hold it in any other ways a little bit more interesting than just that. I don't really mind if he's holding it down like this, actually. It does look really cool, just like that too. But it also does come with a firing effect, which you can see here. Really nice multicolored transparent firing effect here. Slips right into the barrel of the gun like that. It actually does go a little bit, there we go, a little bit more all the way in there. And so now you've got a firing effect, and that also looks exceptionally nice. That does look good. I love how that looks. That 2-tone effect on it is very nice looking. This is why I do kind of wish I can get him to hold the weapon with 2 hands, but it's just not going. I can't seem to really get it together. Maybe someone else out there is going to be a little bit better at figuring out how to do that, but as for me, I cannot get him to hold it with both hands. So, yeah. But to be fair, I don't really know even if the Star Wars Black Series figures can have him hold his weapon with both hands. Maybe you guys out there can let me know about that, but it still looks really cool, even just in one hand. And yeah, I'm sure if it can be done, someone out there will let me know. And we have one last accessory, and that is this right here, and that is Boba Fett's flamethrower effect. So I think on this hand here, this piece should come out. Let's go ahead and give this a yank. Okay, I had to cut for a second just because I had some trouble getting this thing out there. But I recommend if you want to get the flamethrower on him, because it does come off like this, just go ahead and take his hand off, make your life a little bit easier. And since his hand is off, I guess now I will put on the other hand just to show you how it looks. There we go. So this piece is now going to go in like this, and Boba Fett flamethrower effect. There we go. That's looking nice. Wow. Now, I know that Hasbro has done a lot of Boba Fett figures, but I feel like they haven't ever done one with this many different effects on it. Like, usually it's like they'll give you the blaster with the rifle, or maybe you'll get the jetpack version with blast-off effect. I don't think it's ever been 2-in-1, unless there's like some Ultra Mega Deluxe version. This one here comes with so many different types of weapons and accessories on them. I mean, this really just feels superior to me in many ways, purely based on that. Now, while we're here, I also want to compare Boba Fett to a few other figures in a few different scales. And unfortunately today I don't have with me any Star Wars Black Series figures to compare them to. But I do have a few other figures that I think are going to be fairly close. And first things first, let's go ahead and bring in a Marvel Legends figure. This is also by Hasbro. And I also have from the recent Plasma collection, this is a Peter Venkman figure. And the reason I'm bringing him on here is because some of the Black Series figures we looked at in the past, like the Bespin Luke Skywalker, the Hoth Princess Leia, the Bespin Han Solo from Empire Strikes Back series, they were a little bit smaller in height. So this Peter Venkman here is also a little bit smaller in height than the typical Marvel Legends. So I thought he'd be good to help scale you, give you an idea of the scale here. And yeah, you can see, these diamond figures are a little bit bigger, but they don't fit in that far off from it. But they are a little bit bigger than the typical Marvel Legends, and he does tower over this Peter Venkman figure. So yeah, he won't really fit in too well with your other 6-inch Marvel Legends figures. For sake of comparison too, I've got a few other toys here. I have an AEW figure from Jazzwares, which is also in the 6-inch scale. 6-inch, 6.5, I think, in fact, sometimes. And here is from Mattel, one of their WWE Elite figures. There's Roman Reigns. They're actually pretty similar in terms of height there, so that's good to see. And last but not least, I also want to bring in another diamond figure. This is the John Wick figure. And so interesting, John Wick is a lot bigger. So it looks to me like Boba, he actually might not be that far off. Like, based on how he's looking standing next to some of these other figures here, I mean, he's not that enormous compared to other figures. So you know what? I still think he's going to be a little big for your Black Series figures, but for other toys, he fits in all right. That's kind of a nice little surprise. So final thoughts on this Boba Fett action figure. And I gotta tell you guys, overall, I think this is actually a flawless looking figure. The only real downside to it is the little bit of limited articulation in his shoulders. The legs aren't as big of a deal to me because those don't really matter that much. He's not going to be doing Bruce Lee high kicks anytime soon. It's the fact that he can't really hold his gun with both hands that kind of bugs me. All right, after a little bit more work, you can kind of get it with both hands. You can see it here. I think if you were doing a little bit more finagling too, I'm pretty sure you can get it to look much, much better than I've got it here. But all right, he actually can get it with both hands. So I take back what I said earlier. I don't think it's a perfect look for him, but you know what? You actually can get it up there. So that's good. So on that note then, I'm going to still stick by what I said. This is a flawless figure. Even with the shoulders not being able to maybe move quite as much as I had hoped, you don't really need them to move that much more than what they're doing right here. I think this is some of the best paint application we've ever seen in a Diamond Select action figure across all of their ranges. Not a paint speck missed anywhere, and normally that's something that we'll talk about. But none of that problem here whatsoever. I think it's a nice even layer of paint also, because that's another problem I've had with Diamond Select figures in the past, is that oftentimes the paint gets a little heavy, gets a little sloppy, faces won't quite look right. This time around, this worked out perfectly. Outfit looks good. I love all the different accessories. I love all the different translucent effects he comes with. There's so many little details to this figure, and personally, I think it's a better value than most other Star Wars Black Series figures are, because you're probably not going to get all of these different accessories in the same Boba figure if you were buying it from Hasbro. So I think the thing everybody wants to know about, and that's whether or not this is going to be a competitor for the Hasbro figures. And I think it's very much not. It's very much going to be a different line. It's a different line unto itself. The Star Wars Black Series collectors, I imagine, are going to be very loyal to that line. And most are probably not going to touch this. But I think for me especially, and for other folks like myself, this is actually a good gateway to get back into Star Wars figures. Because, like I said, I only really have bought a handful of Star Wars figures since Hasbro got the license. I think I can count on 2 hands how many Star Wars Black Series figures I have, and I don't see myself getting that many more either. But the Diamond figures, these things look really great. I like the way they're looking so far. I like all the accessories they have. I think the articulation is really nice. And they're only $5 more than what Hasbro is charging for the Black Series figures. For a figure that's slightly bigger with more accessories, I think that's a really great value. Now you might be saying too, this scale is kind of unappealing because, you know, as we saw, we looked when we did the comparison to other figures, it's a little bit bigger than the other Star Wars figures. It's going to be a little bit bigger than most 6-inch figures. But the upside of that nowadays is that, well, there's a lot more 7-inch style figures out there now. And I'm looking at McFarlane Toys in particular because they're really expanding. And because I didn't show this earlier when I was doing the comparisons, here is 2 McFarlane Toys. That's the recent Cyborg figure that we just looked at as well on the channel, as well as one of the Warhammer 40K guys. And, all right, well, if this just didn't sell you right here, look at this. This is awesome here. The fact that he's pretty much similar scale as the Warhammer guys, he looks great next to the Cyborg. So yeah, the 7-inch scale is growing pretty fast, pretty hard, thanks to companies like McFarlane Toys and Diamond Select, who already has quite a big range too. So I think this is going to be a great entry point for not only people who wanted to collect Star Wars toys, but maybe weren't too into the Hasbro figures, and maybe that line is just too big, too expansive for them right now. It's hard to get into it. You know, the fact that you can jump right in right now with Diamond Select and get a lot of really cool looking key characters, I think that's a big positive. And more so, I think it's also a positive for Diamond Select because this is going to introduce a lot of people to their company and to their figures. And that's why this Boba Fett is the perfect #1 figure for them to have. Really, the only word I can keep saying is flawless. I'm so shocked I'm using that word for a figure in general, but for me, this is a flawless, perfect figure. I can't think of a better Boba Fett figure out there in the scales or range of scales I'm collecting. So yeah, even with the hand being a little funny maybe, I still dig this a lot. And this is from somebody who does own the Black Series Boba Fett. If I had to make Sophie's choice, I couldn't necessarily do that here, but I am going to say this Boba Fett, definitely worth your money. If you've been avoiding the Black Series for whatever reason, I think you should go ahead and go get this Diamond Select figure. And by the way, if you want to pick this up for yourself, this is a Disney Store exclusive. I'm going to have a link in the description below. Hopefully Amazon gets it at some point, and if they do, I will use that link as well. And if it does go on Amazon, please make sure to use my Amazon affiliate link, which will also eventually be in the description below. But until then, this is our very first look at Diamond Select's new Star Wars series of action figures, starting things off with the best bounty hunter ever, Boba Fett. I have very high hopes for this line. I think there's a lot of things they could do with it. But I think the other question that people want to know about is, what about likenesses? Well, folks, stay tuned, because next episode, we've got one other Star Wars figure from Diamond Select to take a look at. And, well, I think things are about to get a little interesting. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. Thanks for watching. And remember, no disintegrations.